100.4 FM.
Harara's heartbeat
Has been giving you 9 years of fire.
feel the fire, raise it higher.
We are soaring higher. All day, all night. It's on Kapi Talk 100.4 FM. Harara's heartbeat. Hashtag 9 and fly.
A time check here on Capital 100.4 FM. Harara's heartbeat is exactly 18 minutes after 7 p.m. And welcome to it. Let me just acknowledge a few people that have chosen to express their interest and show that, Jamali, we are with you on the deep dive. So my Brandon Pa Quads an extension, my Obama Pa Quads an extension, my Brandon Pa DZ extension. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sharon Kokota and Fidelity, you also tuned in. Mike Jaden, Pamel Bahrain, thank you so much for keeping it locked on to Capital 100.4 FM. Harara's heartbeat, Stanford Chuma, Mr. Livewire, Chris Westmart, Pa Greystone Park, Mama Madison Jr., Munyapa Vainona, a Patience in Mavuku, a Sungura Lady from Hayden Park, a Boss T Pa Mavuku, Mdara Chakofora is also tuned in, a Lipton Manyara from Vurwi, Mai Sheila Guru H. Kokonya, a Mr. Simon, Pa Long Chen, how are you doing? My Faye Pachi Town, Angelina, Pa Warren Park, I'm enjoying the music. Slim T Hazard, you also tuned in. Washington Mushangwe, Mofu from Chisipiti. And this one didn't sign out, but Ali Bonali has also joined us. Mkoma Gilbert Biriad from Eastleigh. Baba Benson, Nyamweda, you also tuned in. Charles Turo from Glenora. Everybody's coming through. Ashies Pachitan is also logged on. My brother Shepherd Imyamatikiti Rushinga. Always a pleasure to have you along. Ellen from Fear is also tuned in. Patricia from Cranbourne, you also tuned in. Gertrude from Chitungwiza, you also logged on. Time check is exactly 21 minutes after 7. It's time for us to get into the next segment. And as I said, government has enforced subject limits to improve learning outcomes. So the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has begun strict enforcement of limits on the number of subjects learners may sit at ordinary level and at advanced level, restricting O-level candidates to a maximum of 9 subjects while maintaining the 3 principal subject requirement at A-level with effect from this year. Now, the move is a part of broader efforts to enhance learning quality by prioritizing the depth of understanding over accumulation of numerous subjects in line with the full rollout of the heritage-based curriculum. So, we're going to be joined by Mr. Patrick Zumbo, a Deputy Director of Communications with the Ministry of Education, the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education. He'll be joining us shortly on the line, and it would be nice to know and also have your contributions. Valerie Mishakwe, nice to know you're logged on. My Matipo is also logged on. William Dambe, what is your take on this? +263 719 100 404. You can also send your voice notes. Charles Turo from Glenora, I also see you have also got a contribution that has already come. Hans Jamali, I don't know what the problem iri papi. Zvine name kuti ndanyora 12 subjects. Yo nyora ako matatu, it's my money and my time. So definitely we want to get to the bottom of this and understand what is going on. Keep it logged on to Capital 100.4 FM, Harara's heartbeat.
night, and she hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. She's coming in 12:30 flight. The moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation. I stopped an old man along the way, hoping to find some old forgotten words or ancient melodies. He turned to me as if to say, hurry boy, it's waiting there for you. Gotta take a lot to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I bless the rains down in Africa. We're gonna take some time to do the things we never had. The wild dogs cry out in the night as they grow restless, longing for some solitary company. I know that I must do what's right, sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. I seek to cure what's deep inside, frightened of this thing that I've become. Gonna take a lot to drag me away from you.
That day is the music of Toto, and the track is titled Africa. And let me say a special welcome
Rains down in Africa.
to the Deputy Director of Communications and Advocacy in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, Mr. Patrick Zumba. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Good evening, Jamali. Good evening, our listeners. Thank you for having me, Jamali.
Thank you so much for joining us on Capital 100.4 FM Harare's Heartbeat. And without wasting much time, let me get straight into it. We've got an issue that we have seen making the rounds on social media and even in print media, that government enforces subject limits to improve learning outcomes. Let me just give a brief background on this issue, that the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has begun strict enforcement of limits on the number of subjects learners may sit at ordinary level and advanced level, restricting O-level candidates to a maximum of 9 subjects while maintaining the 3 principal subject requirement at A-level with effect from this year. Now, they're saying that this move is a part of broader efforts to enhance learning quality by prioritizing the depth of understanding over accumulation of numerous subjects in line with the full rollout of the heritage-based curriculum. So thank you so much for joining us, Deputy Director. I wanted to find out then that in terms of policy rationale and its objectives, what were the main reasons for capping the O-level entries at 9 subjects and the A-level entries at 3 subjects?
Thank you very much, Jamali. First, I need to give a background to it.
All right.
Yes, you see, we started to have a conversation about our curriculum and the curriculum framework in 2015.
Okay.
Where we then came up with what we call the competence-based curriculum.
All right.
And that was supposed to extend, to start from 2015 up to 2022. And that has long since expired. The lifespan of the competence-based curriculum came to an end in 2022.
All right.
Then from there, we then went back to Zimbabwe, to our communities, to our teachers, to our learners, to consult on the way forward.
All right.
And what we got from our, constituencies was that the competence-based curriculum was good, but it has its limitations. And of course, we learned those lessons and took some of the lessons that came from our people And those are the lessons that then inspired the heritage-based curriculum.
All right.
Now, the heritage-based curriculum framework is the kind of curriculum that started in 2024 and is expected to go as far as 2030. Now, coming back to your question about the capping of the number of subjects.
Yes, sir.
Yes, in the consultations that were carried out, we met different stakeholders, and those different stakeholders gave us an input. They gave us some scaffolds on how best we can move forward.
All right.
And then we came up with what we are having now as the heritage-based curriculum, which is obtaining now. And by the way, the casting of the subjects that we have made reference to was not informed by the recent developments that we have witnessed with some learners. This can be ranting as many as 12 subjects, 10 subjects at A level.
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
Possibly at O level, writing as many as 20 or thereabout.
Yes, sir.
It was informed by the consultations that were done. It's not an overnight kind of reaction
All right.
that we had. So we got an input from our stakeholders to then say we need to cap the number of subjects for very obvious reasons so that we can actually cap on the competencies that our learners have. So that was the rationale really. And what are these competencies? These are the knowledge and the skills, the values, the attitudes, and the dispositions which our people should exhibit during the learning and also, of course, after the learning experience. So that was the rationale, to be precise.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director. Let me take you back to something that you have constantly mentioned in your laying of the foundation. You have talked about stakeholders. If I may find out from you that which stakeholders were consulted before making this decision, because you then said that the coincidence that these results have come out and this we are now implementing this capping of entries is not a reactionary situation. Which stakeholders were then consulted in this period that you're talking about?
Well, Jamali, education is everyone's business.
Mm-hmm.
Education the world over and in Zimbabwe as well is everyone's business.
Right.
Almost everyone has a role to play. It could be a parent, it could be a teacher, it could be an education expert, it could be the learner or the people,
All right.
or anyone. Now, you realize that if you have a child in school, upon completion perhaps of A level or university, you will find yourself perhaps attending to your grandchild and some other relatives.
Mm-hmm.
So we in education, we regard almost everyone, every human being as a stakeholder,
As a stakeholder.
in the street,
All right.
in the education sector, including those that who don't have children for now. At one time or the other, they may find themselves with some youngsters, to attend to pay fees, to take care of,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So in the consultations that were done,
Right.
the stakeholders that I made reference to precisely are the teachers. That's one component of the stakeholders we had.
All right.
We have a quantum of teachers in Zimbabwe who are some of the great stakeholders in the education sector.
Indeed.
And as such, there is no way in which we can come up with a curriculum framework without involving the teachers themselves.
All right.
And similar, we can't come up with any other, curriculum without consulting the parents who are also the stakeholders, like I said.
Right.
And of course, we educate on the experts, the education experts, and the learners themselves. Now, to be precise, the curriculum framework is a product of broad consultation, which was led by consultants. And for interest's sake, some of these, the majority of these, consultants were from the education side. We had some lecturers from the University of Zimbabwe. We had some lecturers from the Midland State University and some other universities locally who were actually leading the consultations and in coming up with the curriculum framework that we have.
All right.
And to do that, we had to consult, go far and wide in terms of consultations, consulting our parents. In 2023 or thereabouts, we came up with a deliberate move to say we need to go out there and see the real people that matter, the parents and other, stakeholders.
Indeed.
And we then say, then every school is a consultation venue where teachers, where parents, and anyone interested can provide his or her views on the kind of education that they want in Zimbabwe. And those ideas that we got from parents, from teachers, and the learners themselves who were part of, the stakeholders.
Right.
Because we then said we need a quantum of learners at each and every school so that they can then speak about the curriculum and the kind of education that they want.
Right.
So it was, that broad and included different stakeholders that I've talked about. And I want to believe and really congratulate the Zimbabweans and appreciate their views that we then consolidated in coming up with the curriculum framework that we have for the moment, which we call the heritage-based curriculum.
Wonderful. And do we have then, after all these consultations of stakeholders and the various players that are involved in this decision making and coming up with the heritage-based curriculum, do we have data, do we have evidence that supports that these subject limits improve learner outcomes?
Precisely, Jamali. You see, in coming up with the ideas or in the process of consultations that were done,
right,
we then captured each and every detail that came from the stakeholders.
right,
Whether it was just one word, whether it was just a phrase, whether it was just a sentence, we could capture them verbally. And in some instances, we could actually record what the views that came out from our stakeholders.
all right,
And those views were initially consolidated in what we call the narrative report. The narrative report actually captures the raw data,
okay,
the raw responses as they were given by the stakeholders from different venues.
all right,
So we have that data, we have that evidence with us. If you go through what we call the narrative report, which contains that raw data that I'm making reference to, you will see some of the views that we have, views that pertain to even the capping of the subject that we are talking about. Because we witnessed that area in 2021 when we were implementing the competency curriculum, that our learners had the tendency, and in fact, I would say the propensity of learning as many subjects as possible. And for that reason, we then began to question to say, is it for the good of the learner?
okay,
Because any education is for life and work. So we then say, is this necessary? Having all these subjects, will they add value to their lives? Will they add value to their career aspirations? And definitely it was a no. And that also came quite clearly from our stakeholders to say, why are we having all the plethora of these many areas, these subjects that the learners are writing, which do not speak to their career aspirations?
all right,
And of course, that informed then the decision to say, we need to come up with the capping of the subject.
okay,
If you look at our curriculum framework, if you have then to have chance, and I invite almost all our stakeholders to have a look at it, particularly page 32, if they happen to get these copies. Anyway, they are readily available in the majority of our schools, and we continue to distribute them. we have talked about the capping of those subjects.
Okay.
That's why I say it was not an overnight decision.
All right.
It was a calculated decision, a decision arrived at after a careful consideration of what was happening.
So you have then asked a very important question in the coming up of with this framework. You are saying that is it important for a student to have or to be doing all these subjects? So let me come back to you with a question saying that is the subject limit intended to address issues of workload or issues of exam performance, or is it addressing issues to do with resource constraints?
I think we need to get it right from the onset.
All right.
We are not going to limit the subjects in terms of what is obtaining in the curriculum. We are limiting the choices that the learners have. We will continue to provide a wide menu, which is in the curriculum framework, which I've made reference to. If you look, you have time to look at it, you discover that we have included as many learning areas, or the subjects to be precise, as many learning areas as possible. But we then said, no, we need to guide our learners so that they can make some rational choices. Other than having 32 or thereabout, because there are more than 32 or so learning areas that we had. In fact, the number is quite huge. I might not be exact about the number for now, but we then said we can't have all the learners doing that. Our learners need guidance, need to be protected somehow, to make sure that when they begin their journey of learning, then they can make some decision to say, I want to be a doctor, for instance. I want to be a teacher, for instance. And then they can then begin to make that decision right from a very early age. And by the way, we, as part of an intervention, we then said we are going to profile these learners. So that as soon as they get to the door of a classroom from ECDA, we start profiling them. And as we profile them, we begin to realize their strengths, we begin to realize their weaknesses. And then we redirect them in areas that they are interested in, so that by the time they get to Form 3, Form 4, they are then able to make some decision in terms of options to say, I want to do A, B, C, D in my life. So we will still offer a wide menu. We will still offer all the subjects that are in the curriculum framework. But then we will then, upon perhaps writing to say, can you write and can you learn 9 subjects at all levels, subjects of your choice. We are not going to prescribe it anyway. Of course, there are 3 compulsory subjects, the so-called compulsory subjects, which we have. And these are mathematics. These are combined science and heritage studies. Those 3 are compulsory at lower secondary. So that by the time the learners perhaps complete the lower secondary, and then besides the 3 compulsory, they can then take what we call the electives. These are learning areas of choice or areas that they can decide on. So after taking the 3, which are compulsory, then they can choose the other 6. And those 6 are subjects of their choice from a wider menu that will be available. So we are not limiting the subjects per se, but we are then saying, can we now redirect our learners so that they can do 9 subjects at O level and do 3 subjects at A level, so that they are then able to do or take up subjects that speak to their careers as they learn. So that's the issue.
All right.
Well, in terms of constraints of the resources,
yes, sir,
that you have made reference to, well, we realize we have, yes, in some instances, in some subjects, we can have that constraint. But we have also taken that on board to say our curriculum framework is going to be anchored on pillars. And some of the pillars are the physical infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, which we are also going to provide, albeit with challenges, of course, that we are obtaining but we will do our best to make sure that each and every learner makes a choice in his or her area, an area that speaks to his or her career aspiration.
Thank you so much for clarifying that point, that the menu is still very wide, but what we are then limiting is what the child is going to be accessing based on their choice. But when we then do that, has the ministry tried to foresee or project this subject of limiting the menu, that not limiting the menu, the subject that a student is going to be partaking? Isn't this going to affect students' competitiveness in the tertiary education locally and internationally?
No, it's a definite no. Actually, it's going to strengthen, their competitiveness.
All right.
They can then, as you begin to specialize
All right.
at an early age, it then tells you that by the time perhaps you complete even your tertiary education, you'll be a specialist somehow. Other than perhaps a situation where we allow them to do all sorts of subjects. I've often said in some fora that you can't be a jack of all trades.
All right.
When you become a jack of all trades, you then become a master of none. You remember at tertiary level, you don't go to tertiary level to do all the 9 subjects that you are going to do at O level, or to do all the 20 subjects that they are currently some of the learners are doing.
They'll be narrowed
You are going
down
there with a particular subject, one page, 2 or
at
so.
most, yeah.
You are actually targeting, a particular career, which you have started with subjects that have started at the A level or O level. So, in other words, it will then depend their understanding in particular subjects or in particular learning area. And then by deepening their understanding, it means they are more competitive than what they are doing for now. I tell you, if you carry out a survey, even with those that have completed their A level now, including some who have 20 A's at A level, 30 A's or thereabouts, and ask them about their career, and you not be surprised to realize that they've not made their mind yet. And what makes them, a bit confused, if I can use the word, is because they have a plethora of subjects that is on their table. If they had made their mind, if we had guided them earlier, they will tell you, even at Form 3, at Form 4, that when I sit for my O level, I will go to tertiary college. And when I go to tertiary college, I want to go and do electric engineering, for instance. I want to go and do nursing. They make their minds well in advance. And once we do that, then we are creating the critical skill that we want as a nation.
Indeed, very clear there that you are expressing those points and sharing with us the situation on the ground regarding the choices that students can make. I've got a contribution that came in here just saying that, Jamali, I don't know what the problem is. Zvekuti ndanyora 12 subjects kokana munhu achida kunyorawo matatu ake, that is their own choice. Is it not an issue about me having the money or the capacity and the time to take up these subjects? That's a question that came in from one of our listeners. And also, just to add on to that, to say, so do we then have an opportunity? Let's say we have students who have interests in more than 9 subjects at O level, or more than 3 subjects at A level, to be accommodated in any way? And is there a plan to support students who feel restricted by these subject limits?
Well, I will answer the last part.
All right.
There is no limit of whatsoever. There is no limit whatsoever.
Okay.
It's actually a way of tailor-making these students for a meaningful, career. You can't do, for instance, biology, and then you proceed to do Ndebele, and then you proceed to do Tonga Pep, and then you proceed to do chemistry perhaps, that kind of approach does not help the learners in any way. Because at the end of the day, that particular learner needs to proceed. We are not very much interested in the number of A's in Devele, in Shona, in Venda, or any other language or any other subject, which does not count towards your life. This is what this is what was obtaining. So it's a way of trying to assist them. This is not a new phenomenon. If I could perhaps remind our listeners. Some of us went perhaps to A level around the 90s and probably early 2000 or thereabout.
Yes, sir.
Before we had this recent development, people used to do 3 subjects, and at the A level, of course, and those 3 subjects would then take them somewhere. And we now, as a matter of fact, realize that the kind of interest that people have in these other subjects that do not count towards their career is just for fun. We want critical skills that have made reference. We want innovation. And with those innovations and the other skills, competencies that we really want can only come with proper guidance.
Okay.
Now, it's not a question of you having money. Well, we may have the money, but look, what is important is for you to get the best out of the education system.
Okay.
I said earlier on that education is about life and work. Now, what kind of an employer would even consider you with your Shona AE and biology AE and probably Venda AE and Tonga AE and perhaps there's some other subjects thereabout? You need to be guided. We need to be guided so that we move forward. And by the way, the innovation, the much needed innovation that we want as a nation, can only come when we begin to be innovative, when we begin to have skills. So I'm appealing to parents, I'm appealing to learners, that they should now refocus, redirect their energy, other than wasting energy doing all sorts of subjects, which do not help them in any way. You have heard of instances, Jamali, where we said we are producing some of the graduates that cannot even fix a globe. When you want to fix a globe, how you invite someone, and you know the kind of person that you normally invite. You invite someone who is a dropout in some instances, someone who could even proceed to the university, who had then acquired some skills somewhere. So we then said, no, why should we having these people that are acquiring skills perhaps through hook and crook through their own means? Why don't you then take a deliberate stance to then say, when you want to do mathematics, when you want to be a doctor, when you want to be a nurse, be grounded in what is required. So that explains why we are taking this position. Okay. It's for the benefit of the learners. It's for the benefit of the parents that are actually forking out their money to their to their learners, to their children. So that at the end of O level or at any exit point, the value for the money is actually realized. You better be able to produce a particular skill rather than getting 100 A's, which do not put food on your table.
Very clear there. Let me then take our attention to the schools and the teachers, the main stakeholders that we talked about earlier. How will the schools be supported to implement and enforce these limits fairly? And is there going to be any additional training or resources being provided to teachers to adjust to the curriculum planning?
Well, those kind of activities are already underway. I tell you, when we started the rollout of the heritage-based curriculum, we did not throw the framework or the syllabi to the teachers. Mm-hmm. We came up with a deliberate, course of action where we said we need to equip our teachers. We need to start develop our teachers so that they are able to effectively deliver on the new curriculum. And that course of action started at national level and then cascaded to provincial level. And finally not finally to district level and finally to the teachers themselves. So as I talk, any bona fide teacher in Zimbabwe has some certain understanding about the curriculum framework. We are not saying we are just ending there. We will continue to self-develop them, to support them where necessary, where it is required or where it is necessary, that we come up with a policy position on in some areas. We'll definitely do exactly that, so that our teachers become equipped, so that our teachers, they know what they are supposed to do. I tell you, from where I am seated now, that some of the teachers, some of the people that are actually involved in staff developing teachers are teachers themselves, because we have equipped these teachers so that they also equip their fellow teachers, and that can also be done at the school level. We have provided for that opportunity so that they can equip each other, but we are not going to there. This is a process. By the way, we said our curriculum framework stretches from 2024 and it will end in 2030. And in between, we'll continue to review, we'll continue to monitor, and come up with some interventions that are necessary.
I've just got a message here that came through from one of our listeners, and they're saying that while we understand the rationale behind the ministry's capping of subjects, the timing was extremely wrong and sends a foul smell. They are continuing to say that if they really consulted this some time back, as alluded to, why is it that this was not knowledge to the citizenry that such a consultation was ever done? That was the first point that they put across. And they're saying that it has also become a habit for the ministry to curtail associations of learners and parents alike. Years back, they abruptly banned the analysis of schools' results statistics to show and demonstrate which school is doing best in Zimbabwe. And this was in itself reactionary and uncalled for. They do not want competition and enhancement of intelligence and knowledge. They should allow learners who are capable of taking more subjects demonstrate their ability and magnitude of their knowledge.
Well, I will respond first to someone who made reference to the banning of the list of schools, the best schools, and so on and so forth.
Yes, sir.
Yes. In terms of education, is not necessarily about getting an A. It's about life, like I said. You learn a lot from the education system. I know we would ultimately want our parents would want to ultimately see their learners getting an A and so on, which is okay. And to be very frank with you and our learners, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education had never rated the schools in any way.
Okay.
We've never come up with a list of schools to say this is number one, this is number two in terms of pass rate. We've never done that. Now we used to marvel at the list that we could see circulating on social media.
Okay.
We don't have such a list here. Of course, we do analysis of the results to say in which subject did learners perform better, in which subject did learners have challenges. That we do, but we don't rank schools like it has been referred to. That was coming from elsewhere, and in some instances it was a bit mischievous. People were doing it for some obvious reason, to say because we have a number of A's at school B, so school A becomes number one. But in some instances they were looking specifically at A's, not looking at the quantity of the learners. How many learners had been to that particular school? Perhaps there were just 10, and then they all got perhaps an A in a certain subject. But here is school B, which had enrolled 140 learners. And you then say, because they did not get the number of A's which were got by school A, and therefore it is number 40 or any other numbering. Yes, so those numbers were not coming up from the Ministry of Primary and Education.
Okay.
Yes, we do analysis. Those ones we do. But the ranking was not coming from us. It was coming from someone somewhere, and for some very obvious reason. we then tried to then persuade those that were doing the ranking to say it's not even necessary. Because you can't rank us when we are, differently enrolled.
Yes.
I am at school A, which does not have some of the resources that
school
the
B,
school
yes.
B has. So what are we saying at the end of the day? Are we saying school B is school A or school B is bad? Because it doesn't have perhaps enough textbooks for one or two reasons.
Deputy
So
Director,
we then said, no, that's enough.
let me just cut you short there because of our time is fast running out. But there's one key thing that I wanted to find out in the last 30 seconds. Are there any metrics that the ministry will use to monitor the effect of this policy before we cross over to the last news bulletin?
We'll definitely monitor that, and it's very easy. You can even tell upon registration the number of subjects that the learner is going to write.
All right.
If they are beyond 9, then it's not within the policy.
Okay.
If they are above 3 at A level, then that will be something different. And we will continue to do that. And we are very happy that our learners, our stakeholders, they are very much aware of what we are talking about. If you get to any school, they know they are supposed to do 9 subjects for O level. So we are very thankful for that, response, and we continue to encourage parents, learners to stick to what we have so that we can have a directed learner, a learner with skills at the end of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deputy Director, Communication and Advocacy in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, Mr. Patrick Zumbo, for enlightening us on this situation where we have the capping of subjects at O level and A level. Do stand by for the news bulletin.
Thank you for having me.
Happy Talk 100.4 FM
Happy Talk 100.4 FM. Hilarious heartbeat.
has been giving you 9 years of fire.
Happy Talk. Feel the fire. Raise it higher.
We are soaring higher. All day, all night. It's on Happy Talk 100.4 FM. Harare's heartbeat. Hashtag 9 and fly.